Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming today for the Bhagavat Sravana program here at the Bhakti Center. So we're very happy to have you. I know some of you have come from very far away, some from Bombay, some from Long Island, which is even further away than Bombay sometimes. Probably on a bad day, you can get here faster from Bombay than you can from Long Island. Anyone else who's here for the very first time? Anyone? I noticed in the back. Where have you come from today? From Manhattan. Okay, you got the longest journey. On a bad day in Manhattan, just to get a few blocks is difficult. Anyway, so it's very nice to have everyone here today. So we do this program every week called Bhagavat Sravana. And this week we are very honored and blessed. And by the way, thank you very much to the devotees for leading Kirtan, Akeshwar Prabhu, and nice young McLean. So we are very happy this week to have with us a special guest. So this devotee is, I was trying to think, what is the word that I would use to describe him? And the word that came to my mind is all-pervasive. He's all-pervasive. He's like everywhere. Everywhere you go, he's like behind the scenes or in front of the scenes. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu has his finger in the pie somehow or other. I was just on a call the other day and found out that he's doing so much wonderful service with Wisdom of the Sages and connecting with so many people online at YouTube. I think the very first time that I, in recent years, went to the Brooklyn Temple, he was outside of the temple there. He immediately grabbed hold of me, connected with me, and then when we came back, he's running the Darshan Room program at Brooklyn. He's leading, whenever I go there to give class, he's always upstairs in the kirtan, leading this rocking, amazing kirtan where everyone is just losing their minds, just straight back to the 1960s and 70s. And and here he's doing soul talks on a Saturday, organizing and running that. So, and in the meantime, hosting people at his home and just giving so much love and care and attention and enthusiasm to everything that he does. So we're really, really blessed and honored to have His Grace Nityananda Chandra Prabhu with us this week to speak. And the topic, I'll allow him to introduce because the title was so long I didn't have time to memorize it. But it's basically pastimes from the Bhagavatam and how brilliant it is. So like that. So we would like to offer a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, by chanting very loudly 3 Hari Bols. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol!
If two lights light up, then it's all good.
Yeah.
If they're both not blinking, we gotta plug it in. Okay. Welcome everyone. Should we sing a little Jai Radha Madhava, or is that what you usually do, or?
Yeah. You can do whatever you like, whatever you like. Perfect.
Do you usually do it?
Change the batteries in that as soon as you start singing.
Oh, you changed them?
No, they need to be changed.
Oh, right here.
Okay, I'll sing Jai Radha
Get
Madhava.
past me. Does anybody know
there's a
the
magnet.
lyrics for this song? Anybody?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm there.
Hari Bol. Oh, yeah, right here, the magnet, right? Here, you put it on how you want.
Just stick it there. There it does it. Oh God. Yeah, I had I like zoomed in and then put it on the screen, but then it went and zoomed back out. Okay. Not friendly with each other. Reader. Okay, maybe this might work. Yeah. One second. Here, let me just resize or move to this place.
Go to the settings. Rather there. And go to displays. Display and option mirror.
Okay, I'll have to turn that on. Off. Let me see. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Shota Shota Shishimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Shota Shota Shishimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Go Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming here. Coming to Bhagavat Sravana. This is my first time speaking here at Bhagavat Sravana. Yeah, I've came for maybe a few other times, but first time speaking, so my honor to. Hare Krishna.
It's about time.
So today the talk is called Moral Conflicts and Bhagavatam's Brilliance, where right meets reason. And this age is actually called the age of Kali, this particular time period. It's the time of conflict. And so that's why it's really important to understand how do we navigate conflicts in life. So here's a question for you. If God tells you to do something, should you do it? Raise your hand if you think the answer is yes. Huh? Raise your hand if you're just scared, like, I don't know if I should raise my hand. And raise your hand if you think the answer is no. Okay, good. So Bhagavad Gita is a book of philosophy. It's not like a book of rules and declarations of punishments, but it's rather speaking about very deep principles and it's very philosophical. And so what is moral reasoning? And has anybody heard of this term, moral reasoning? Moral reasoning is, what would you say is, how would you describe moral reasoning? What's moral?
In class, but like I don't really know the exact definition. I just like morals is like what's right and wrong, but moral reasoning is like kind of like a compass of what's right and wrong, kind of. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but
Okay. So moral reasoning would be like the reason why you feel something is right, or the reason why you feel something is wrong. And that's really where there's a lot of tension, isn't it? It's like and moral reasoning is how we navigate life. It's like, even like, should I eat this cheesecake? There's some reasoning that goes on in our head, like why I should eat the cheesecake. For basically anyone who's conscious, there's a lot of people who may not behave very consciously. They might just react to things and just act on a very just reactive level, but still they'll give some reasoning to it, And so this is very important. It's our culture, it's our formulation of values, and it very much impacts. So I'm going to give you a spectrum of moral reason. Can everybody see this? Okay. Yeah. So this is you basically have different sides of approach of how to deal with morality. There's different types of approaches, but a general spectrum you could bring them to is what is called deontology versus consequentialism. Has anybody heard of this very odd term? Anybody here? We have one college student who's like, yes, it's still in my head. The rest I forgot. I never used this. So deontology is, as it says here, a mere performance of one's duty. Is the ultimate form of acting, the moral value of something. The value of something is in the act itself, not in the consequence, but the act itself. And just like if someone says, it's always good to tell the truth, and you should never tell a lie. So that's deontology. So and then the other term we have is called consequentialism. And this is, it's not really important if you're telling a truth or a lie, but rather what are the consequences? And utility is the principle. So this spectrum is there. So these are two major camps, and the Bhagavad Gita will actually speak about both of these. And so we'll give you some examples. So this is an example that Srila Prabhupada gave. It's from the Mahabharata. It's from the book called the Shanti Parva in section 162. And it's Bhishma Dev, who actually in his youth, you'll find that he seems to be more on the very deontological side. Like he basically, there was a situation where he was asked to do something and he said, I made a vow that I would not do that. And the sun can, cease to exist. The earth can no longer support us, but I will not break my vow. I don't care what the consequences are. But this is later on, Bhishma is sharing a story to the eldest brother of Arjuna, Yudhishthir. And he has many questions. And so Bhishma Dev is answering some of the questions, and all the questions, but one of the answers is he tells a story about a truth-telling sage. So there's a sage who made a vow, I will never tell a lie. And once there was a man who was coming through the village, and he was just looking frantic like that, and he said to the sage, these guys are going to kill me. Can you hide me? He said, yes, get in that hut there. So this man, he was running from the mafia, and the sage hid him in the hut. And then the mafia shows up, and they said, we're looking for this guy. He was looking a little distressed. Can you tell me where he's at? He's like, yeah, he's in the hut there. And that man the man who said that described he had to suffer severe karmic retribution. Actually, the Mahabharata says he went to hell for not telling a lie and causing someone harm. And Bhishma says, the man who speaks the truth without weighing the consequence, that truth is fruitless. Truth which leads to destruction of life is not dharma. The highest dharma which uphold lives and is what uphold life and prevents harm. Oh. All right.
I didn't do it.
Is that a confirmation? Sound like a Sepultura or something like that. Okay, so at this point, it seems like deontology, this duty base, it seems like a sort of mindless existence where you're told a rule and you don't really see any, you're not using your intelligence, it doesn't seem to have much weight to it, isn't it? And so here we have, this is another example of consequentialism. So this is in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Anubandham shayam himsam anapeksha chapaurusham mohad arambyate karma yattattama samuchate. That action performed in illusion, without concern of future bondage or violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance, the mode of darkness. So I specifically left out a little part. Now, doesn't this seem, it's very much all about the consequences. So I left a certain part of the verse out. And that is Anubandha, which is described as in disregard of scriptural injunctions. And now, what do I mean by scripture? Does scripture mean, okay, this means the Vedas? But actually, it's a non-dogmatic understanding that when we're talking about scripture specifically here, especially in the point of deontology, is that it's something that is inherently from outside of this world. It's coming from a higher source. Like, who can tell me what's happening in Japan right now? Do you know what's happening in Japan? Now, how would you find out what's happening in Japan? Google. But you could just, instead of Google, just use your own intelligence and you just guess. But you won't really get anywhere, isn't it? Like you won't get anywhere. Or you could use instead of using your intelligence, you could use your senses. You could get on the roof and get a telescope. But still, that won't help. So you're relying on a source. And that source is otherworldly. It's outside of America. It's in Japan to get that information. Of course, you may apply your intelligence. You may see if also it applies to your senses. If it says that in Japan, everybody eats like bread with cheese and mozzarella and marinara sauce, and that's like the main thing of Japan, all over Japan, and that's all they eat. And then you go to H Mart. What's it called? H Mart here, the Asian Mart, and then it says made from Japan. It's like all this seaweed. It's like, wait a minute, it doesn't add up. My senses, it doesn't line up with the sensual perception. It doesn't line up with the logic that's related to that. But you do need to start with the source. And so that's what we say about disregard of scripture. And so here's some examples from the Bhagavad Gita. So as we mentioned here, this is the full verse without the edit that I put to the verse. I added the... And so you have deontology in the Bhagavad Gita. In the very beginning, Krishna asks Arjuna to fight. And Arjuna gives very good reasons. And you would have to be something wrong with you if you didn't see the merit in Arjuna's reasons. I imagine our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, he came to America in the 60s and 70s during the Vietnam War, and he's presenting Bhagavad Gita, and you find it's such a contrast. Arjuna's being told to fight, and Arjuna gives great reasons. I don't want to see women without their husbands. I don't want to see children without their fathers. I don't want to destroy the social systems and harmony that keep society together. And then Krishna says his response, it's your duty. Another example of deontology in the Bhagavad Gita is Yogashta. This is like the Zen-like state of being situated in yoga. So it's like he says in the second chapter, without consideration of happiness or distress, just do your dharma. So very, very interesting, very, very, you could say, confusing. Arjuna, you find throughout the Bhagavad Gita, he was actually quite confused. There was many questions. And then at the very end, everything throughout the Bhagavad Gita, things become more and more clear. Arjuna has less questions. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, there's so many questions. And he even questions things that, it's almost like the same question, like, I'm not getting this, how you can be spiritual, but at the same time you're saying be worldly. It's not all adding together. So a question for you. What are the difficulties with consequentialism? What are the problems there? What problems you may find?
Because you're just like doing whatever, rather than dealing with consequences after. Because you're just dealing with whatever and then dealing with the consequences after.
Nice. So you may not know what the consequence is. Like you may not know what A leads to B. Now, have you seen a Rube Goldberg's machine? Like where it's like you drop the marble and then it hits this thing and then it does that and it does this and it does that. You might not know what B is, but do you know what Q is or X is or Z? You don't know what is the famous story of the minister, and there was a king, and the king was a very, very good archer, and he really liked his sport of archery. And then one day he was practicing sword fighting, and he cut off his thumb, and you are done being an archer. And his minister said, God's will, very nice. And he said, what? I will throw you in prison. He said, very nice, God's will. And then one day the minister, he went out on an excursion and he was captured. And he was captured not just by thieves, but cannibals. Like, how many of you seen like the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? And like, Kaliba. So he was captured by these people who wanted to perform some ritual sacrifice. And they were so happy. But after they buttered him up, actually, you know this term, buttering up somebody, that actually comes from the British going to India, and they're seeing how the devotees are bathing Krishna with ghee and yogurt. It's called buttering something. That actually relates directly to the abhishek. Yeah, you can Google it. They'll say throwing butter, but they don't. It's ghee. It's melted butter. They pour it. They don't throw wads of sticks of butter at Krishna. So buttering, after they buttered him up, they looked at his hand. They're like, "Oh, this guy is not fit for sacrifice. He's missing a thumb." And so he got let out. And then he went to see his minister. He said, "Oh," he let him out of prison. He said, "Oh, thank you. I realized actually this was God's kindness." But he said, "Why was it God's kindness to throw you in prison?" He said, and the minister said, "I'm always with you." He would have been the other choice. He would have been the one that got sacrificed. So like this, you don't know what this consequence is. What's another problem with consequentialism? And here, if you want, you can throw this guy on there too. There we go. Boom. And you were there. It's alive. What's another problem with consequentialism?
Well, it seems, what's the first one?
Deontology.
Deontology.
Duty, rules coming down from
Well, it seems
the
with
gods.
deontology, it's very black and white. It's very clear. It's like you don't do it at this time and you do it at that time. With consequentialism, it's a little subjective. It means I don't know whether I should or I shouldn't. I have to make the decision based on whatever the ramifications might be, but I don't know what the ramifications. So it's easier. Deontology seems to be easier. It's more black and white. And the problem with consequentialism is not so clear.
Okay,
It can be unclear.
There's a term called utilitarianism. There's act utilitarianism and rule utilitarianism. So act utilitarianism is anything that you do, you should see nothing has merit in itself. But if something benefits the majority in the sense of their happiness, if it benefits the majority in the sense of their happiness, because they're looking for some kind of, how do you root this in something? So they said, okay, the standard is going to be happiness. And if something benefits not just you individually, but everyone as much as people in the most way, then that is considered moral. And not doing that is immoral. So what do you think about that? Any thoughts about that? Yes.
Anyone else? Well, I think Prabhupada speaks about this all the time, that the government is making decisions to do things that apparently make the people happy, but actually it's just causing them greater suffering.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, slaughterhouses, for example, or whatever.
Yeah, like
selling drugs or cigarettes or alcohol, and they'll be happy, but they're suffering.
like in the beginning of the industrial revolution, everybody thought, man, this is the best thing ever. And now some of us are thinking, wait, maybe this wasn't the best thing ever, the industrial revolution and factories and all that. But separate from that is just on principle, if the idea is actually to make everyone happy, say you have somebody who, you have 5 sick people in the hospital. Someone needs a kidney, someone needs a heart, someone needs a lung, and someone needs something else. And there's a neighbor next door that, he doesn't have any family, and he's healthy. You save 5 people by killing that one neighbor. So this is And so that's called act utilitarianism. So then they said, wait, there's rule utilitarianism is kind of more of a blend of dealing with that. So you can see that there's some problems there. Is what one of the problems with consequentialism is there's no standard of what is actually good. It's what you consider to be a good consequence. And if it's just happiness, then you might find yourself in immoral situations. Like another example is you're traveling and you come across, like this is in the time of conquering and colonialism, and some villagers have protested, and they're welcoming. What's your name?
Arnav.
Arnav. They say, well, Arnav, you're our honored guests. See these 20 villagers here? They have protested. If you kill one of them, then we'll let the rest go. But if you don't kill them, we'll shoot them all. And so this is another relates to this utilitarianism, is that inherently you know that there's something wrong with the act. It's not just about how it benefits the most. There's something wrong that is there. And that feeling of wrongness is based on, you could say, a more of a divine principle, or not just a mechanical principle of consequentialism. So it's like how you tell, how you know what is valuable or truthful. So what are the difficulties with deontology? Ari?
What are the problems with deontology?
Yes.
No pressure, Bruce. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if I have an answer for it. Yeah.
So it says in the such and such scripture, get rid of the non-believers,
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. It says it in the book. So what's wrong with that?
Well, then they're creating an act of murder, for the.
But the book says this part is not murder. Like someone says, "Thou shalt not kill" doesn't mean animals. That's why we've changed to the English to say "thou shalt not murder." Although the original says "thou shalt not kill," so we just change it. So the book says "thou shalt not kill," so you kill millions of animals because the book says this, and so what's wrong with that?
Well, you're killing.
And what's wrong with killing? It says this is okay.
Well, you're causing harm and suffering to another being.
But how do you know that's wrong?
I feel like we're all going to
Because there are
serial killers.
because there are consequences that the beings are.
So that's consequentialism. Yeah. So deontology is there. Yeah. The problem is this is kind of fanaticism, blind. It's uncritical thinking. It's just the book says, that's it. Like you said, black and white. There's this kind of fanaticism. And our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, he gave this wonderful quote. He said, religion without philosophy or science is sentiment and sometimes fanaticism. And philosophy or science without religion is just speculation. So you have this balance, this actual tension that is there. So the cons of consequentialism, just constant speculation. And the cons of deontology, fanaticism, uncritical thinking, can be actually quite dangerous persons. Both can be. But yeah, this is not very critical thinking. So I would say that these are complementary. Just like you see, you have the water, they're going around the rocks. So it's like consequentialism, this flexibility to go around the rock. But why does the water go around the rock? What's behind that principle that's making the water go around the rock?
It takes the path of least resistance.
It takes the path of least resistance towards what?
Towards its source.
What's coming out of the source, but it's being pulled by
Gravity.
So there's
black and white.
There's an anchor to it, and then it's being pulled by that, but it has this flexibility. Another example: say you're in a maze, and you have a map. That can be very helpful, but it can also be you can't figure out where you're in this very intricate maze. The map's still not helping you. Or you're lost in the forest and you have a map. That also doesn't help you too much. Now say you're lost in the forest and you have a compass. That can help you, but not as helpful if you also had a map. Or if you're in the maze and you also had the sense of a map, like a compass that is there. Another thing is you have the architect. The architect says, I want to build a temple on this place. It's going to be 5 stories and it's going to have this and that and this and that. So that's the architect. He has a sense of the direction that it's going. But then behind that, yes, you have the engineer. He says, well, this place on this part of the land, the soil is like this. On the front, there's stone. He knows how to adjust according to the situation. So the map is giving you that ability to adjust, but the compass is giving you the direction that you want to go. Or the gravity is pulling, it's giving the direction where you want to flow, and the quality of water's flexibility is giving that consequentialism that is there. And so you see through our American history, you have different periods where we've benefited from different types of spectrums of this thinking. Like, for example, when there was a fight against slavery in the Civil War, was that deontology or consequentialism? Consequentialism would be like, maybe slowly get rid of slavery. We don't know how it's going to affect the finances of the country. But deontology, this is wrong. It's very deontological. Slavery is wrong. It doesn't matter if it just causes a whole bunch of distress. We have to stop it. We have to just get away from this. This thing is wrong. Maybe a little bit of a little bit of slavery and little portions of slavery. It's okay. No, it wasn't consequentialism. It was deontology. So this is different portions of our society. Sometimes we've been benefited by more consequential thinking. Sometimes we're benefited by having more of a deontological thinking. And so, as you see, they said the architect and the engineer, the compass and the map, the quality of water's flexibility, but the gravity that is there. Are there any other examples? Is everybody getting a hold of this concept? So deontology means there are truths. Things do have merit, but you cannot abandon intelligence, consequentialism. Let's see what we have. Okay, so you have a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the Srimad Bhagavatam is most wonderful text. It's going to the essence of spiritual thought. And first chapter of the first canto, so wonderful. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave class on it for I think 3 or 4 months straight in that one verse. And if you look at all the commentaries on just verse 1, you'll get a book around that thick, different commentaries of different great teachers. You get chapter 2, very, very beautiful. And you're hearing about all the importance of all these different things, but it isn't until later in chapter 7 that finally you get to see Krishna, his pastimes, and introducing Krishna. And the first thing Krishna says is not even anything philosophical. It's very practical. There is a son of a priest, Ashvatthama, and he is of an evil character, and he was on the antagonistic side, and the battles basically had been won to secure Yudhishthir as the leader, the emperor, and he decides that he wants to. He decides to kill Arjuna's children, Yudhishthir's children, Bhima's children, Nakula's children, and Sahadev's child in their sleep. So he sneaks into the camp and he kills all 5 children. And Krishna says, you need to capture this man and kill him. Then Arjuna he captures him. And I think at that time, that's when Krishna says, Arjuna told his wife, I will kill this man who's killed your child. And Arjuna captures him, and he doesn't kill him. He just captures him. And even Krishna is saying, don't forget what you said to your wife. And he brings him back, and the wife says, don't kill him. I am feeling the pain of my child's death, and his mother is very dear to me. I don't want her to feel that pain that I feel. She has already lost her husband. I don't want her to feel the pain that what's this little sound there? That I'm feeling the pain of my own son's death. And Yudhishthir also agrees. And others agree. And Bhima, who also lost his son, does not agree. And Krishna was the one who also told Arjuna, kill this man. And so, remember in the beginning we said, if God tells you to do something, should you do it? So we have Krishna there telling him, kill this guy. And Yudhishthir, his wife, and others are saying no, except for his brother. Brother saying yes. Smash this dude, kill him. And they give different reasons. And Arjuna actually, this man, he has a powerful gem. This gem has like a mystic power. It gives him great strength, great energy. No one can defeat him in various different things. He's very powerful. And Arjuna cut that gem off this man's head, and also kind of insulted him in a way, like cut off his hair. And he said, this insult is actually equal to death. And Krishna, God, was very pleased. So you have here God telling you to do something, and you don't do it, but rather you find that each one of these personalities were actually given different reasons why he should do that or not do this. But all their reasons were their consequentialism, their reasons that they're giving, but they have a kind of sastric or spiritual basis. It's kind of like if you go to court, they'll argue. They don't just argue, but they'll argue based on previous cases, and they'll use the strength of the legal strength of previous court cases. And so in the same way, they're presenting all these different arguments. And so if Krishna tells you to do something, if your guru tells you to do something, should you do it? Yes or no? Or actually, you should be, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, pariprashnena. Pariprashnena. Pari is where we get the English, the periscope, periphery, around. And prashna means questions. You should all around question. But do it in a very humble mood, but you should ask questions. You should ask questions and look in a very comprehensive way. If you do something your guru tells you to do, you should know why. If you have no idea why, then you probably should ask. Maybe you understand why and you don't have to ask. But you should ask. Pariprashena. Comprehensive understanding of a subject. And in the same way we question, Krishna also tests. Pari akshata. This is what is, pari again is around, and akshata is eyes. Pariyakshata. Pariyakshata. Does that sound like any name you've heard before? Pariyakshata? Anybody? Parikshit? Parikshita. Pariksit is the Arjuna's grandson in the that's his story is in the Bhagavatam, and that he saw Krishna within the womb. It's related to the story of the priest. But pariyakshata means to examine from all sides. So Krishna was examining Arjuna, although he was telling him, kill this dude. He was seeing, what does he do? Is it just black and white? Is there deep spiritual discernment? Does that make any sense? So, have another example of this balance that's there. So you have later in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's described the discipline of speech. And so Krishna says, Anudvegam karam bhakyam satyam priyatam chayat swadayabhyasanam chaiva vanmayatapa uchate. So Krishna uses the same thing that I found in my son's social studies book, except for one letter was missing. So the Vaishnava, the devotee of God, he thinks before he speaks. So is it satyam? It is truthful. But if it's truthful, and you could say, hey, your ears are huge. That might be the truth, But is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So you have this kind of balance of sensible and sensitive. And sometimes some things are more important. If one of your relatives, or one of your dear friends, there is a funeral, and they say, I'm feeling very sad, and can you come with me to this funeral? And you're like, yeah. And you get up on the podium, hey everybody, you're not the body, you're the soul. You're just like, and that might not be your position. You might need to be sensitive and just be there to offer comfort. Now, I've been invited to many funerals, but I'm invited as the priest to say something like that. So they like a nice chant some verses and talk about how we are the soul and everything like that. But that's what they're seeking. So that's being sensitive. You want to be sensitive. And then sometimes you want to be sensible. You see some kid playing in the streets of New York City, like on First Avenue. And you start using that Boston lingo. It's like a sailor's mouth is coming. Hey, mother, father, get the hell out of the street. And you're screaming. You're not sensitive at all. You're just like, get out of the street. There's some kid, playing in some dangerous situation. You might not be sensitive, but you might be very sensible. But we're encouraged to try to have the optimum of all of these things. And that also, when we're speaking about philosophy, is it sourced? Or even speaking about others. I heard this person is this or that, or this or that. What's the source? Is it really truthful? So Kashtuba and Raghunath, they had a discussion and they made these different principles of how to avoid conflict. They said, you should be respectful. And you have the example of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya debated with the greatest scholars in India, but he was so humble. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he sat there without even saying an argument, didn't even say anything for 7 days, just listening. And when he asked for a response, he gave a challenge, but it was not very arrogant. It was very humble. Therefore, understanding can be received. And that's another part, is that you should seek to understand the other person. Don't put a label on other people, and say you're this or you're that. And what you said is this. Rather, if someone has a statement, someone has a position, you should be able to present their position better than they can. Like, wow, exactly, you've understood me. What you mean to say, no, that's not what I meant to say. You should actually say it in such a way that the other person understands it. That you truly understood. To seek that they assume that the person has a good reason, and try to understand the motives behind it. So that is another principle. Seek to understand. Find the common ground. And discern without trying to destroy. Actually, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, Krishna describes various things that are excellent in this world. Vibhuti. Things that are amazing and wonderful. Things that are actually expressions of divinity. Ways you can remember God. And he describes this term, Vada Pravadantam Aham. Vada is a term for logic, for debate. And Vada is a type of dialogue where just the two different people that are debating just really want to understand. That's Vada. There's Jalpa, Vitanda, there are other forms where you don't even care if your point is made, you just want to destroy the other person. Or another one is you just want to destroy the other person. There are different types of ways that we approach conflicts. But Vada is when everyone just wants to know reality. And so, this way we try to speak words that are truthful, but are also helpful, that are also inspiring. It might be necessary, but also is it kind? This way. So these are some ideas. I think we just have about 5 minutes. If there are some reflections, comments, or questions, there are many examples that Prabhupada gave of consequentialism. If you listen to the lectures of Prabhupada on this 7th chapter of the first canto, he gives so many different examples how we have to be thoughtful.
What if after several engagements with the tips that you're giving, you still find yourself faced with the conflict of another person, especially a more committed Vaishnava,
So
and your core being, what do you suggest then?
yes, good question. Good question. I you've heard of the elephant in the room, or just the blind men in the elephant example. You have like the elephant. There's example of many blind men are trying to describe an elephant. One's got the tusk. He says this thing is like a very stone-like creature. Another one has the ear. No, it's like a canvas-like creature. You know. The other one's got the tail. No, it's like a rope. The other one's got the trunk, and it says, no, it's like a boa constrictor. The other one's got the belly. It's like a barrel. And the other one said, no, you're wrong. I'm holding on to the truth. They're like, no, come on this side and see what I'm experiencing. No, I'm not. First of all, what you're saying doesn't make any sense, so I'm not going to look on that side. And second of all, like, I have it in my hand, so I know, and you're wrong. So I always thought that there's one way to deal with it. If you could say it's the elephant in the room. It's the elephant in the room of religion, actually. And the elephant in the dark room, the one solution is you turn up the lights. And so what that means is there's not really a solution other than becoming deeper, more mature. You turn up the lights, the more you're enlightened, the more you can actually see beyond conflict. You know, you can actually understand others and have less conflict because you have that vision that is there. There is also another opportunity other than the main thing is maturity, though. That's the main thing, is that we actually have to become deeply spiritually advanced. My teacher asked Srila Prabhupada, in Buffalo or Boston, my teacher's kind of sarcastic, and Prabhupada was always sarcastic with him also. And he said, Prabhupada, when you're not here, how do we know we're doing the right thing? And Prabhupada responded, you'll try to do the right thing, but you'll do the wrong thing. And he took it as like, unless you actually become very, very advanced, the chances are that there will be conflict. You will do the wrong thing. Another option also, in addition to that, is if the blind men or the men in the dark room, the men in the room, the elephant with, well, in English generally it meant both.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just
Getting myself in the right calibrated.
yes, it's yeah. The people in the room, if they have a concept of an elephant, then automatically, even if they don't have the light. So if we can understand, like, for example, we understand the point of having the deontological, understanding that there are principles that have value, and we might not understand their value, but their value have value, and it's not based on our speculation or divinity. But there's also intelligence, and approaching things with reason also has value. Understanding the importance of that tension. So understanding the concept of an elephant can help the people in the dark room make sense. Oh, this is an elephant. Or the blind men have a concept of an elephant that they can understand. They might just have the ear. This is an elephant, if they have the concept. So even if the person's not mature, but theologically or philosophically speaking, they have a broad view. They might not have the depth within their heart yet, but at least if they have the spiritual education where they can make sense of people coming from different points of view, then they can help deal with that conflict.
And if they can't, do you have any recommendations for
If you can't,
their benefit?
And like Joy Chaitanya came, he was always very humble. So we can't really expect to change somebody else. We can, change probably them best by our own character and
Or a group of people addressing, if that person won't let them speak.
yeah, and you can ask for help. That's also possible. Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Okay. Anything else? Our host,
Any questions or no?
as you like.
We're probably gonna have Arti soon, so maybe we could finish if you're okay.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. Haribol! So, very happy. I definitely learned a lot today, many different concepts and different words that I hadn't. So thank you very much for enlivening and enlightening all of us. And we definitely hope that you'll come back again. So we're very grateful to have Nityananda Chandra Prabhu here with us. And now we're going to have the Arti and Kirtan. So we ask everyone, you can please stand, and we'll put away the chairs and cushions, and everyone can come forward. After the Arti, we're going to serve the prasadam in the back. And if anyone would like to volunteer to help out with that, you can speak to me during the Arti. Thank you very much. His Grace Nityananda Chandra Prabhu ki jai. Yeah. Would you like to lead kirtan?
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shivate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaho Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Acharya Shota Shota Shishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariraj Acharya Shota Shota Shishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Phanachar Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. BBT Phanachar Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Jagannathpuri Dham Ki Navadip Dham Ki Gangamaya Ki Munamaya Ki Dosi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sankirtan Yajna Ki Vrihabhridanga Chancellor Bhukshan Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Go Premanande. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Balaram United Name. Hiranyakasi Purvaka. Sing, oh, Bhagavat
right, thank you very much everyone for being here. So this concludes our Bhagavat Sravana program, except for one important part, which is next, which is Prasadam. So we're very grateful again to Nityananda Chandra for being here and enlightening us. I'm going to have to watch the class again, take notes to get all the points down and make sure. But very, very, very powerful and nice presentation, very refreshing. So we're now going to serve Prasadam. Before we do, I would just like to remind everyone that we're heading towards a very auspicious season. So it seems like every time I stand up, we're talking about festivals and different festivals that are going on. But we have some wonderful festivals that are coming up here in just a couple of weeks' time. So let me just find the information. Also, anyone who is interested, please, we would like to keep you all updated. Please sign up to our temple updates. So the Bhakti Center has a WhatsApp group, management only, I think is how it's termed. Admin only. So it means you can't send anything and you won't get spammed. My wife, Bhagavad Bhakti, she makes sure that we only send 3 or 4 messages out a day. Not even that many, right? I'm saying, send more. She's like, no, calm down. So we have the month of Kartik coming up. And lots of festivities in that month. So the month of Kartik, everyone is aware, Damodar, the month of Damodar, where we offer the candles every evening. So that will be happening starting on the 6th of October. And that will start with Shard Purnima, which is a very auspicious evening. And it's also the anniversary of the installation of Gaura Chandra, who's here to the left, well actually it's to the right of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya's installation was on that day, so there'll be a beautiful festival. All of this is on the website. Then on the 20th of October is Diwali, so we'll have a wonderful festival happening here on Diwali. 2 days later is the 22nd of October, and we'll have Govardhan Puja, so festival here. All the timings and everything are all listed on the website. 25th of October is Srila Prabhupada's Disappearance Day. And again, another festival. And then the 5th of October is the last day of Kartik. And we're having a special festival just for the last day, which is called the Festival of 1,000 Lights. So we have some devotees who will be taking over the temple room, and they'll light 1,000 diyas here in the temple hall, and we'll have an opportunity to have some kirtan, pravachan, and festival, lots of wonderful activities. So as you can see, many things to do in the month of Kartik. Also, we have our ongoing Sponsor a Day. So we're going to launch that also for the month of Kartik. Special time to sponsor a full day of offerings, all of the worship for the Lordship. So all of these things are available on the website. Next week's speaker is...
Padmanayana.
Oh, that's right. Padmanayana Prabhu is coming. So those of you who are familiar, he is the principal of the Mayapur Institute, so our educational arm in Sridham Mayapur. So he'll be coming next week to give a talk. So we invite everyone to please come back for the program next week. And I think they've left now, but there were 2 young ladies you saw. They were offering a little arti. It was they're twins, and it's their 24th birthday. So their desire was to go to the temple on their birthday. So when I was 24, I assure you my desire wasn't to go to the temple. So I'm very happy that some people have the desire to go to the temple when they're 24. Good for them. So they were here. So we tried to make it a little special for them. So like that. Anything I'm missing? Any other announcements? Okay, so we do need a little help today. If anyone would like to volunteer to help serve and or clean up afterwards. Okay, we have 2 hands, beautiful. So otherwise, okay, thank you. So otherwise, we're serving a beautiful vegan feast in the back of the temple room now. Everything is free, but if you'd like to give a donation, there's a board and a box there. You're welcome to help out. Thank you very much.